All right, boys. I had an insane realization recently. And that is, at some point along the way, Instagram became straight up softcore porn. Corn, if I can't say that word. Like, what? When did this happen? So, to give a little background how I even clocked this, I've been off Instagram now for about 4 months, say. And that comes off the back of going abstinent. So I've been abstinent now for about five and a bit. And at some point early on in the piece, I realized that there was no chance I could remain on Instagram and remain successfully abstinent. And I need to preface that there's no way I could even be abstinent to begin with without Christ. So that's the reality that needs to be stated. But further, taking the time off this app and then viewing it as a third kind of person perspective, as my brain's been desensitized to that, it made me realize that this is out of hand. IG is straight up softcore corn. And this is 100% cooking our brains, cooking our minds. Especially, I can't even imagine the young boys. So, the way I link that up, yeah, so as I said, I've been abstinent now for a few months and off Instagram for majority of that time. And, you don't think about it. I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'm doing my thing and getting closer to God and just kind of avoiding all that. And it actually just happened like I'm in a public place with the boys and I'm viewing over their shoulder a scroll on Instagram, and the first thought that popped into my mind was, what's this bloke doing? Scrolling corners in broad daylight, in public. That's like obviously split second, maybe tenth of a second. But that's the first thought that goes through my mind. Man, brother, what is this bloke doing? And then obviously realize the scroll and be like, oh, okay, that's Instagram. And then the light went off like, boom. What? At what point did this flip? I remember, like, I'm 36 years old now, so I'm getting on in age. But I remember when I was a kid, when we were growing up, bro, that was an adult magazine. To see this stuff, full spread eagles and like just one tiny little piece of fabric separating, the viewer from what's behind, or even, nipples and all this, yeah, that you had to go to a service station and in my case steal that, rack that. That's what I was up to, naughty little boy at those days. But that was restricted. I think you had to be 16 or 18 or something to do that, at least in Australia, to buy those magazines. You couldn't just get that. You had to find it. You have to have a friend's older brother or an uncle or whatever, that you could locate this type of materials. And now it's just out in the open, completely there to be found, seen, consumed on a daily basis for every single person. I don't know what the age limit is on IG, but it's not, whatever it is, it's not old enough. Like, brother, that's a worry. What is that? Where my mind goes with it is, what is that doing to our brains? What is that doing to, even, I can say for myself, just being off it, I felt such a freedom around these kind of lustful, penetrating thoughts that get in there and start to weave their magic. And I'm a fully grown adult man. What is that doing to a 12-year-old? What's that doing to a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old boy's mind? That's cancer. That's AIDS. How on earth are we to expect that a young man, a young boy can develop into a man, a respectable man, when he's being flooded with this type of content, this type of imagery on a daily basis? How's he supposed to ever look at a woman and not objectify them? And don't get me, I'm not preaching from a holier than thou perspective. Like I said, I've been abstinent now for a few months. Big whoop. It actually means nothing in the broad scheme of things. That's my cross to bear at the moment because I've lived an insane life of doing exactly that, objectifying women. And over the past 3 years, which is I'll get into it in another video, kind of my testimony, I've been getting further and further into the rabbit hole and feeling disgusting about it, feeling very disgusting and shameful about it. Really guilt, yeah, because of the fruits of my actions. But as I said, that's a story for another day. Right now, it's like that, and that comes off the back of whatever I had access to when I was young, yeah. Because I'm still a part of this. I'm 36 years old. I'm not an old man, but back then we had magazines. It started off, and then it started off. You could download this type of stuff, but you know, if anybody remembers, you'd have to like load them on 56K modems. You'd have to load them. A photo would like slowly start to appear down the page. A photo back then, when I was probably 15 or something, you know. And now, like, forget all the corn that's just freely accessible online to anybody. Forget that. But even in a place where you think this is social media, this is for, you know, interacting with people and keeping up with people, staying in touch. Brother, you're going through a corn site. That's what it is. There's no other way to describe that. And this is I'm just speaking from the male perspective. What about from the female's perspective? You got young girls viewing that and thinking like, oh yeah, that's normal. I've got to go do that now. Like as soon as I'm able to, as soon as my parents allow, or if they can do it in secrecy behind their back, then they're thinking like, yeah, this is normal. This is just what normal girl, like these are normal people on there. These are normal girls. Okay, there's a lot of, you know, these other websites that pop up nowadays. There's a lot of promotion for that stuff going on as well. But brother, I don't think anybody has an idea how detrimental this is. And I'm only just starting to realize it now. And if we look at it truthfully, this is the downfall of our civilization. This is the downfall of society. First you attack the nuclear family, like this is not new information, yeah? Attack the nuclear family, and then everything else starts to fall apart from there. You remove the man as the head of the family, you remove the mother as the nurturer and the homemaker at home and role model, and then the kids go haywire. That's it. I heard this saying recently, and it resonated so deep. It was, if you want to destroy any nation without war, make adultery or nudity common in the young generation. Think about that. If you want to destroy any nation without war, make nudity or promiscuity common in the young generation. That's wild. That's deep. That's true. It's so true. If you know it, you feel it. When you hear those words, you know that's the reality. And that's what they're doing. And that's also the contributing factor of how twisted we've got, how far lost we've become, and how twisted everything's become. So, obviously the next logical point is like, yeah, well, all right, fair. Where do we go with this? What am I supposed to do with that information? And it's rough. It's rough out here, I know. The only way I've been able to achieve any of this is, like I said, through the power given to me by Jesus Christ. Without that, no chance. When I decided to go abstinent in the months leading up to that, I felt like I was being like compressed in a trash compactor. The pressure and the anxiety that was building up. I'm not an anxious person in general, but the pressure and the anxiety that I felt crushing down on me was immense. And this word kept going through my head: impossible, impossible, impossible. I wouldn't. My argument's that's not my voice. That's some demonic whispers telling me that there's no way I could stop the womanizing, the apps, you know, the meetups, all this madness, you know, that I've spent way too long engaging in. And the only voice that I could hear whenever I thought about trying to stop was impossible. But of course, all things are possible through Christ, and that's the route that I took. I don't know if that's going to be the route for look, I understand. That's a big step. It's a big step. It took me years. It took me a very long time. But for me, that's what it was. But I also Everybody's on their own journey. I understand that. And I don't want this to just be doom and gloom. Like, look at the downfall of civilization around us. We've got our young women putting themselves out there like that. And then we've got the young men consuming it, which just in turn leads to women being objectified. And then the womanizing and the promiscuity just gets out rampant. You got people, there's no commitment, there's no lasting covenant, there's no faithfulness, there's no loyalty. It's just all gone, right? It's just all out the window. And it's all based off that. It's all based off that one quote. If you want to destroy a nation without war, just make nudity and promiscuity common in the young generation. So I want to also offer some encouragement. Dogs making some ruckus. Just so you know, this is the culprit. Huh? He'll probably be ruining many more videos to come. Oh yeah. So I also want to offer some encouragement. I don't want it to be all doom and gloom. What to do? Like, what are the steps? Obviously, get off Instagram. Like, that is frying your brain. There's no two ways about it. That's just a fact. It's frying our brains in ways that we can't even fathom. So if you can get off. Get straight off Instagram. It's a bit hypocritical now. I'm obviously putting myself out there on Instagram with this content, but it's a means to an end. It's to spread a message. So if you can get off, get off. If you've been thinking about these things, if you've been struggling with these things, I'm telling you, true power comes in the form of faith. Faith in the one true God, the one true Creator. And I encourage young people, young men, to look into it, test it. Test Him. Say, come into my life, if you dare, because He will. I promise you that. But if not, if you're more of an analytic-minded person like me, then just start investigating. Start understanding the arguments for and against. Because again, in the same way, He'll show up. He'll show up if you do. That was my route. That's the route that I took to get here. And like I said, I'm still at the beginning of the journey. There's still ways to go. But the things that we think are normal are not normal. This is not normal. And unless we take a stand, unless we start to take responsibility for our actions and start to move in different directions, there's going to be no light in sight. So I'll leave it there. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear if there's some tangents. I'm going to get into some of these different little rabbit holes and make some videos on that. But if there's anything that stuck out to you, then mention it to me. And if there's pushback, push back like always. Until then, God bless.